What's up guys, Groovy Guitar Dude here with a beginner guitar tutorial for Heartless by Diplo and Morgan Wallen. If this video helps you out, hit that like and subscribe button and let me know down in the comments below what are the songs by either of these two awesome artists that you want to learn on guitar. Guys, the first thing that you want to know to play Heartless on guitar is that in order to hear some bar chords and keep this as beginner friendly as possible, we're going to capo up to 4th fret. And if you don't have a capo, I'll have a link to get this capo for free right up here. The next thing you want to know for Heartless is the structure of this song. We're going to start out with a verse, then go to chorus, then verse again, then chorus again, then we're gonna have a bridge, and we're gonna finish up with one last chorus. And guys, the last thing you wanna know before we dive into Heartless is the 4 chords that we need to play this song. The first one is A minor, the next one is C, the next one is G, and the last one is D over F sharp. And I'll have chord charts for all of those in the pinned comment below for those of you who need them. And with all that in mind, guys, let's dive into Heartless. Man, this is such an interesting song. Who knew Diplo did country stuff? I dig this song because it's really a combination of 2 of my favorite genres of music, country and then the EDM stuff that Diplo usually does. So it's kind of cool. It's got some really cool guitar parts in it, and I'm stoked to share it with you guys. So with that in mind, we're actually just gonna have one chord progression that repeats through the entire song, and then a couple of picking patterns to go along with that are gonna kind of alternate depending on where we're at in the song. So first, let's take a look at the chord progression that plays through the entire song. What that's going to be is A minor, C, G, and D over F sharp. And that chord progression just repeats through the entire song, and then we'll have a few finger picking patterns depending on where we're at in the song that will break down for each individual part. So keeping in mind that we're going to repeat that chord progression through the entire song, the first picking pattern we're going to take a look at is the one that we're using for our verses. Now for our verses, we're just going to have a very simple little finger picking pattern. It's very slow, very easy to follow. You guys should have no problem with this. So let's break this down chord by chord. Our first chord, A minor, what we're going to do for that is we're going to pick our A and B string at the same time. Just like that, we're going to let it hang out. Next, we're going to go to our C chord. For our C chord, we're going to pick our A string and our high E at the same time. Same thing, we're going to let that one hang out for a second. From there, we're going to go to our G chord, and for that one, we're going to pick our low E and our B string at the same time. And then from there, we're going to go to our D over F sharp, and for that one, we're going to pick our low E and our G string at the same time. And let that one hang out as well. Just like that, and that is going to repeat through all of our verses. So one more little walkthrough of that picking pattern we're using for verse. We'll start with our A minor. We'll go A and B string at the same time. Then we go to our C chord, and we'll do A and high E at the same time. Then we go to our G chord, and we'll go low E and B at the same time. And then we go to our D over F sharp, and then we'll do low E and G at the same time. Just like that, and that will repeat through all of our verses. Now, a question that I get a lot when we're doing picking patterns like this, where we're not using the full chord, is do we actually have to keep the full chord down there when we're playing through that? And the answer to that is no. If you don't want to play the full chord, you can just use the strings that you're playing on this part, and just keep the fingers placed that we're actually using. So a little example of what that would look like is this. We can go with our A minor chord, which is our open A string, and our first on B. And then we go to our C chord, which all we need for that one is our 3rd fret on the A and then an open high E. And then we go to our G, and then we've got 3rd fret low E and open B. And then we go to our D over F sharp, and then that one is just a 2nd on the E string and the G string, just like that. So you can play it that way if you want to. It might be a little bit easier, but just for the purpose of showing you guys what I'm doing and making sure that you guys can really see what I'm doing, I'm going to go ahead and play the full chords, and it'll help us kind of follow along a little bit better. So with all that in mind, guys, I'm not really going to play through this one slowly because it already is a very slow picking pattern. And so a couple of times through that verse picking progression will look about like this full speed. And from there, we're into what's being played for the choruses on Heartless. Now, for the choruses, we're going to have that same exact chord progression that's repeating through the entire song: A minor, C, G, and D over F sharp. But what we're going to have here is a little bit different and a little bit more complex for picking pattern. Not difficult, just a little bit more complex. But before we dive into that picking pattern, I want to make sure that you guys know what bass notes are, because we're going to use a lot of them in this and for the bridge as well. So what a bass note is just the lowest note of whatever chord you're playing for the song. So our bass notes for this song will have A minor. Our bass note for A minor is going to be on our A string. For C, it's also going to be on our A string. For G, it's going to be on our low E string. And for D over F sharp, it's also going to be on our low E string. And those are all the bass notes that we'll use in this song. That's really important that you guys understand what those are. It's just the lowest note of each chord, and we're going to be using a lot of them. So if you see B in, that's what that means. We're just going to be using that lowest note of whatever chord that we're playing. So with that in mind, our picking pattern for each chord in our choruses is going to go like this. We'll use our A minor as our example since that's our first chord. We're going to go bass note, D, G, B, and then G, D, G. Just like that for each chord. So a little walkthrough of what that'll actually look like for each chord, filling in those bass notes. For our A minor, that's going to be A, D, G, B, G, D, G. And then we go up to our C chord. That one's going to be exactly the same. So A, D, G, B, G, D, G. And then we go up to our G chord. This is where it's going to change. We're going to go low E, D, G, B, G, D, G. And then we go to our D over F sharp, and that's going to be the same as what our G was. So low E, D, G, B, G, D, G. Just like that, and that is going to repeat through all of our choruses, just like what we just played, obviously a little bit faster, but that's the picking pattern that's going to play through each chord on all of our choruses on repeat. So guys, I'm going to play through that a couple of times very slowly so that you can make sure that you have all the right stuff in all the right places, and then I'll play it a couple of times full speed so that you can match it up with the speed of the song. So slowly a couple of times first through our chord progression with that chorus picking pattern will look about like this. And guys, a couple of times through the chord progression and picking pattern that's going to repeat through the choruses on Heartless will look about like this full speed. And finally, guys, the last thing that you need to know to play Heartless on guitar is what we're playing for the bridge. For the bridge, we're going to have the same exact chord progression: A minor, C, G, and D over F sharp, repeated just like we've been using for the whole song. And we're going to have another picking pattern to go along with that. So we're going to start with the A minor, use that as our example for our picking pattern. What we're going to do is we're going to play bass note, and then G and B at the same time, and then G and B again, and then bass note, and then G and B again, and then G and B again. Just like that. It looks and sounds a little bit weird slow like that, but the end product sounds something like this. And then we switch chords. That's about full speed. So it's a little bit funky. You got to kind of fall just perfectly into the rhythm with that. Otherwise, it's not going to really sound right and make sense. It just takes a second to kind of get that. The best thing I recommend for that is just playing along with the song, and it'll help you kind of find that rhythm. So what we're going to do is let's walk through each chord with that. Again, we'll walk through our bass notes so we make sure we know all of the right ones for that. So starting with our A minor, we've got A, G and B, G and B, A, G and B, G and B, and then we switch to our C chord, and that's going to be exactly the same. So we're going to go A, G and B, G and B, A, G and B, G and B, and then we go to our G chord. This is where it's going to change. We're going to go E, G and B, G and B, E, G and B, G and B, and then last chord we'll go to that D over F sharp, and that's going to be exactly the same as our G chord. We're going to go E, G and B, G and B, E, G and B, G and B. Just like that, and that's going to repeat a couple of times for our bridge before taking us into that very last chorus. So same thing as last time, same thing as we did with the chorus. I'm going to play through that a couple of times very slowly so that you can make sure that you got all the right stuff in all the right places, and I'll play through it a couple of times full speed so that we can match it up with the speed of the song. So slowly a couple of times first through the chord progression, and the picking pattern for bridge on Heartless is going to look about like this. And guys, a couple of times full speed through that chord progression and picking pattern. That's going to repeat a couple of times for our bridge on Heartless. Will look about like this. And guys, that is everything that you need to know to play Heartless on guitar. As always, if you have any questions, you can hit me up in the comments down below. I'm usually pretty quick getting back to those. And again, if this video helped you out, hit that subscribe button. I have about 700 other guitar and ukulele lessons on this channel, and I usually try to post at least 3 to 5 new lessons every single week. So if you're learning guitar or ukulele, there cannot be a more perfect channel for you to check out. If you want to see what song I'm jamming on today or pictures of my dog, you can hit up my Instagram story at the Groovy Guitar Dude. Link for that will be in the description below. Guys, it's been really interesting to see the dynamics of country music change, especially very popular country music. This song has gotten extraordinarily popular just in the last couple of weeks, I think, since it's been out. And it's really interesting because a lot of this kind of music that leans towards the pop side, this country music that leans towards the pop side, is getting a lot of hate. I live in Texas, and so a lot of people around me love country music, and I like country music. I grew up listening to it, but I hear a lot of people, a lot of my family, friends, stuff like that, that just can't stand this kind of stuff. They just want country music to stay country. I tend to lean away from that a little bit. I like that this kind of music is kind of bridging the gap between pop and country, and it's kind of introducing new people to different genres of music. So maybe it's introducing some people who love country music into some pop stuff like Diplo, and Diplo's not really pop, but you know what I mean, like that different side outside of country music. And then it's bridging the gap between people who would never listen to country, and then they see Diplo do a country song, and that kind of introduces them to some country that they actually will listen to. So I tend to like lean towards that side because I like the aspect of it bringing people together, but I can kind of also understand the people who are purists who are like, that's not actually country. I get both sides of it, but I tend to like it because I like it when music brings people together, and it seems like bringing those two genres is kind of metaphorically bringing people together, maybe literally as well. But anyways, this is a great song. All this is a great song. It's a really good one for beginner guitarists because it really is just that one chord progression all the way through, and then we're just changing up the picking patterns that we're using throughout the song. There is a lot of finger picking going on in this song, so if you've never messed with that before, it's probably going to be a little bit challenging, but this is actually a great place to start because we do have that one chord progression that plays through the whole thing, so you don't have to think about that too much once you've got that chord progression down. You can just repeat that over and over again and then change which picking pattern you're using depending on where you're at in the song, which is cool. It allows you to focus more on what's going on your picking hand and less about what's going on your chord hand. So I like that aspect of it, and also all of these picking patterns that we're using are very beginner-friendly picking patterns. There's nothing super crazy going on. The only one that's a little bit funky is that bridge picking pattern, and again, it's not super crazy. It's just a little bit, you just got to work on the rhythm a little bit and play it along with the song and find that rhythm. It's not super difficult to play. It's just a little bit tricky to find the kind of timing and rhythm with it. So again, what I always recommend, especially with picking stuff like this, play it along with the song so that you can find just the right timing and just the right feel for it. But anyways, guys, I had a lot of fun learning this song. I hope you guys have a lot of fun learning it as well, and I hope you have a wonderful day. I'll see y'all soon.